Welcome. Tonight, we return to London in the year 1666, the year of the Great Fire. Rather than rushing through the drama of flames, we will move gently, noticing the quieter details. We'll look at how workers lived in the city, how they struggled during the fire, and how they rebuilt afterward. Imagine London in late summer, 1666. Narrow wooden houses lean over crowded lanes. The streets are alive with the clatter of hooves, the calls of traders, and the steady smoke from hundreds of hearths. For ordinary workers, life is a pattern of long hours and small rewards. A carpenter rises early, his tools heavy at his side. A dock worker hauls sacks of grain and barrels of coal until his arms ache. Servants begin their day before their masters wake, keeping fires alive and meals ready. Their lives are ruled by labor and by fire itself, the fires of ovens, forges, candles, and chimneys. When the blaze began on Pudding Lane, many of these same workers were the first to act. Watchmen shouted warnings in the night. Dockmen formed bucket lines from the Thames, leather pails passing from hand to hand. Servants dragged furniture through smoky streets, carrying possessions that were never their own. Bakers, whose ovens had long been their livelihood, suddenly saw their craft turned into a curse. For many, the fire destroyed not only homes, but work itself. A cobbler lost his leather, a seamstress her cloth, a mason his tools. Imagine waking to find the objects of your trade, your only security, reduced to ash. In the days after, thousands slept in fields beyond the city walls. The nights were cold, the ground hard, but life pressed on. Carpenters began cutting beams again, masons laying stone, porters carrying brick. The rhythm of their lives, always heavy with toil, did not stop, even after the city was broken. The fire began in the small hours of Sunday, the 2nd of September, 1666. A bakery on Pudding Lane, an ordinary workplace, where bread was made daily for the neighborhood, became the starting point of something far larger. Flames slipped from oven to timber, from timber to roof, until the dark sky glowed with a dull red. The Lord Mayor, Sir Thomas Bloodworth, was called from his sleep. He arrived to find houses already burning. At first, he dismissed the danger. To him it seemed no more than an ordinary blaze, and he reportedly muttered that a woman could extinguish it with a simple bucket of water. But the fire had already found its path through the tightly packed wooden homes. Once roofs caught, the flames leapt from one to another with ease. Samuel Pepys, the naval administrator, best remembered for his diary, woke to the smell of smoke. He climbed a tower for a better view. From there he saw whole streets glowing, sparks flying across the river, and the great church of St. Lawrence engulfed, sending orders for houses to be pulled down to create fire breaks. Pulling down houses was brutal but necessary. Men with hooks and axes tore at walls, bringing timbers crashing into the street. It was dangerous, exhausting work. Yet many resisted, unwilling to see their homes destroyed, even to save the city. In the confusion, fire breaks often came too late. By Monday, the fire had reached Cheapside, the heart of the city's trade. Shops that once displayed cloth, books, and spices were consumed. The smell of burning was mixed with scents of pepper, nutmeg, and wine spilling from cracked cellars. By Tuesday, St. Paul's Cathedral, its great stone walls thought to be safe, caught fire as scaffolding and timbers within fed the flames. The roof collapsed in a roar that echoed through the city. Workers, soldiers, and ordinary citizens labored without rest. Some hauled water, some guarded carts of possessions, some simply fled. Imagine the sound. Church bells clanging in alarm, timbers snapping in the heat, the murmur of thousands displaced. By Wednesday, the fire had burned much of the old city. When finally the winds calmed and the fire breaks held, nearly 4/5 of London's walled city lay in ruins. Over 13,000 houses were gone, along with churches, shops, and warehouses. Remarkably, only a handful of lives were officially recorded as lost, though many more likely perished quietly, uncounted. The fire was both disaster and beginning. It destroyed the medieval city, but it cleared space for a new one, wider streets, sturdier houses of brick and stone, and a new vision of London. For those who lived through it, however, the memory was not of renewal. When a city burns, what is left behind? For London in 1666, the ruins were both a puzzle and a memory. Charred timbers, collapsed stone, and layers of ash settled over streets that had been full of life only days before. Archaeologists in later centuries would uncover these layers. Digging beneath modern pavements, they found blackened soil, cracked tiles, and melted glass all sealed within the ground like pages of a story. In cellars once filled with wine or oil, they discovered traces of heat so fierce that bottles had fused into strange twisted shapes. Everyday objects, clay pipes, pottery, tools, were caught in that moment of destruction and preserved beneath the rebuilt city. There were also mysteries in the way people explained the fire. In the 17th century, knowledge of causes was less clear and fear ran deep. Some believed it was an accident of careless bakers. Others whispered of foreign enemies or plots. In the months after, a tall monument was raised near Pudding Lane. For writers and artists, the fire became an image of both loss and renewal. Pepys wrote of wandering through silent ruins, the ground still warm underfoot. Poets compared London's ashes to ancient Troy, imagining a city reborn from destruction. In sermons, ministers spoke of divine punishment, urging Londoners to repent. To them, the fire was not only physical, but morola, sign of something greater. Yet for most people, culture after the fire meant something simpler, adapting to a changed world. Markets shifted into makeshift stalls outside the city walls. Church services were held in tents. Families told stories of the fire to children too young to remember it themselves. A shared memory grew, half fact, half legend, passed down in quiet voices. Today, when archaeologists brush away soil to reveal a scorched beam or a fragment of burnt pottery, they reconnect us to that memory. It is a reminder that history is not only in books, but beneath our feet, hidden, waiting, and silent. For the wealthy and powerful, the fire was the same event, but a different experience. Their houses were larger, their possessions more numerous, and their means of escape more secure. While laborers carried bundles on their backs, the rich loaded carts, wagons, and even boats on the Thames. Servants hurried to and fro, carrying silver, linens, books, and paintings. King Charles II himself walked among the burning streets, giving orders, his clothes said to be singed by sparks. Too many. His presence brought a rare sense of authority in a city where confusion ruled. His brother, the Duke of York, led groups of soldiers in breaking down houses to halt the flames. For them, the fire became a test of leadership, their actions noted and remembered. Merchants with wealth tied up in warehouses faced ruin. Ships at the docks were hurriedly unloaded, valuables ferried across the river to safer ground. Yet even in loss, some had resources to rebuild. Insurance companies, still new at the time, gained importance as those with policies recovered faster than those without. In this way, disaster reshaped the balance of power, favoring those already established. For aristocrats, the fire was also a spectacle. From country estates or high vantage points, they watched smoke rise in vast clouds, glowing at night. Letters describe the scene as almost unreal, like a painting stretched across the horizon. They saw destruction, but from a distance, sheltered by wealth. And yet, the fire touched even the highest. Churches that anchored noble families, halls of livery companies, and the Royal Exchange itself were reduced to ruin. In rebuilding, architects like Sir Christopher Wren were called upon to create something grander. St. Paul's Cathedral would rise again, not as it had been, but as a symbol of a new city, stronger, taller, more imposing. So while the poor struggled to find shelter in fields and alleys, the elite spoke of opportunity, of renewal, of a city remade. Two Londons existed side by side, one of hardship and hunger, another of plans and ambitions. Both were true and both were born from the same fire. And so, our journey through the Great Fire of London comes to an end. We have drifted through the narrow lanes where workers lived and labored, seen the fire unfold through the eyes of those who fought and fled, covered the traces left behind in earth and memory, and considered how the wealthy experienced loss and renewal in very different ways. For the people of 1666, the fire was both disaster and beginning. A city of timber and thatch gave way to a city of brick and stone. Streets widened, churches rose again, and new institutions took root. Yet for those who lived it, the memory was not of plans or monuments, but of long nights, aching hands, and the smell of smoke that lingered long after the flames had died. Now, centuries later, we can walk those same streets. London has grown far beyond its old walls, but beneath its pavements still lie traces of ash and fragments of pottery, silent witnesses to the fire. As you rest, you might imagine the rhythm of that past life. The sound of hammers rebuilding, the calls of traders returning, the hush of a city learning to breathe again. From ashes to renewal, from toil to rest, the cycle continues. And here, in the quiet of the present, you are safe, and the world outside grows softer. Let the images of the fire fade, let the voices of the past grow still, and allow your own thoughts to drift, gently and slowly, into sleep. Good night.